Ponytails. Read by Scribbler. Cracked Beauty by Slate Sadpony.
Now be very careful with this,
said Heavy Lifter. The logistics coordinator of the Ponyville branch of the Royal Equestrian Mail Service, he had the sort of rough, no-nonsense attitude of a manager who'd ascended through the ranks rather than coming into the business through formal education. His packing crate cutie mark, along with his well-worn postal uniform, let his underlings know that he knew their job better than they ever could. He wasn't above reminding them of this fact either.
"You know I will be, boss,"
said Derpy, her comparatively new uniform bearing all the hallmarks of their junior status. Other than the postal workers' union badge on her bag, her outfit was completely unadorned. She had no medals for outstanding service, no insignias of rank, nor even any personalization beyond her name tag. This, in spite of the fact that she had been a mail mare for well over 3 years.
You know I'd really prefer to give this to anyone else,
said Heavy, grunting as he moved the small but surprisingly heavy package up onto the counter.
But what with the fashion catalogs and the public pension checks going out on the same day today, you're the only one available to deliver this.
"I promise it'll get there safely,"
said Derpy, trying not to frown. She knew well how much she was a disappointment to her boss, despite her best efforts. Clumsiness and a lack of adequate depth perception had doomed many a package placed in her satchel, and many of her co-workers had begged her to go on disability for her strabismus. But she just couldn't. Without this job, what did she have? It defined her and gave her purpose. Without the smiling faces of ponies she made deliveries to, how would she even get up in the morning?
Just like you remembered to deliver that vase to the palace last week,
said Heavy, huffing.
"That wasn't my fault,"
said Derpy.
"That cloud came out of nowhere."
You mean you didn't see it?
said Heavy.
Listen, Derpy, I'm not about to give you a pass because you're wall-eyed. Either you can do this job, or you can't. Now can you do this?
"Yes,"
said Derpy. Heavy's words brought tears to her eyes, but she held them back. It was bad enough to be considered incompetent. She couldn't show herself to be a crybaby on top of that.
Fine,
said Heavy, shoving the package into Derpy's hooves.
Don't make me regret this. I swear, one more complaint and you'll be sorting mail until you're so old and sway back that you can't even sit up straight.
"It will be delivered on time,"
said Derpy. She gently slipped the package into her saddlebag as she turned away from Heavy Lifter, hiding her anger from him. He was always so mean to her, and so short and understanding. Had she loved her job any less, she would have quit ages ago.
And remember, fragile means don't break.
Derpy ignored him and took to the air, beating her wings as hard as she could. Derpy closed one eye, then the other, repeating the process every few seconds as she flew high over the forests and fields of Equestria. With no cure for her strabismus, she had grown used to monocular vision, looking at things with one eye at a time and making her best guess as to the distance. While this worked fine when dealing with objects that were close up, it made it hard for her to tell when she was about to fly into something. More than once, she had found herself heading towards the ground or a building much faster than she realized, usually resulting in the destruction of whatever mail she was carrying and a quick trip to the nearest emergency room. Nonetheless, she kept at it, keeping her speed down and doing her best to anticipate accidents. Things were easygoing at first. The various air corridors across Equestria were wide and clearly marked by strategically placed clouds, making passage relatively simple. She stuck to the outer edge, allowing faster-moving Pegasi to pass her on the left. Most of them hardly noticed her, and those behind her only took notice long enough to get around her. The whole process was nerve-wracking at times, and her fear of a collision resurfaced every time some pony passed a bit too close. But overall, it was definitely the easy part of her job. The hard part would come when she needed to actually find the house and not run into anything while she was looking for it. When she exited the air corridor, she immediately dropped to the lowest level she felt was safe and began scanning the ground below her. She had never been to this house before and was disheartened when she realised that the only ground access was via a small hoof-made track, barely visible through the trees below. While ground-based ponies would have no trouble finding and using it, the one pony-wide dirt road was barely visible from above. Weighing her options, Derpy began to slow down and descend even further, looking for a good spot to land. She would walk the rest of the way, rather than risk getting lost or smashing into a tree.
Gangway, slowpoke!
Came a voice from behind her. Before Derpy could even realise what was happening, she found herself spinning, fluttering and falling. As she tumbled, she could just barely see a white and gold griffin with purple streaks in her head feathers, although the griffin was moving much too fast for Derpy to get a good look. Derpy's entire world was spinning, and with her eyes unfocused, it appeared to be spinning in two directions at once. She cried out in pain and confusion, then in fear, as she realised the precious package she had been carrying had flown out of her mailbag and was now tumbling to the earth.
Stupid mailmare!
Derpy didn't bother with a response. Instead, she swung low as hard as she could, desperately trying to catch the box as it fell. Blinking and struggling to get a good look at it with both eyes, she could only hope that she was lined up properly and that it would fall into her hooves rather than onto the ground below. Branches scratched her, and even as she continued to descend through the forest canopy, she knew she was bleeding from her left cheek and shoulder. She ignored the pain as her powered descent slid into a low arc. To her surprise and relief, she felt the box smash into her fetlock as she came forward, the branches and dirt path a blurred mess all around her. She held it close as the weight forced her to dip lower. When her rear hooves scraped the ground, she knew there was no avoiding a crash. Rather than futilely pump her wings in an effort to rise, Derpy wrapped all four of her legs around the package, letting the collision take her where it would. She was used to the bumps, thumps, and scrapes of a crash, and though each bounce sent lances of pain through her, she knew none of them were bad enough to break bones or even produce significant bruises. As she switched from bouncing to tumbling and rolling, she clutched the package even tighter, letting her body take the impact rather than the box. She wasn't marked fragile after all. Coming to a stop at the base of a massive oak tree, Derpy uncurled herself slowly, still holding the package tightly in her forelegs. Ignoring the bruises on her back and the slow trickle of blood seeping from her face, she carefully inspected it for damage. Externally, the box seemed fine. It had not even been dented by the ordeal, its sides still sharp and crisp as they had been back at the sorting office. Slowly, she rotated it around to make sure the underside was not hiding any sort of damage. Derpy had broken too many plates over the years to not recognise the sound of porcelain grinding against porcelain. Though she knew she was breaking every rule concerning customer privacy, she hurriedly forced the box open, tearing into it with her hooves and teeth. She had to know how bad it was. Maybe it was minor. Maybe it could be fixed. Maybe, just maybe, this would not be the package that ended her career. When she peered inside, however, she found the contents every bit as smashed as her hopes. She had expected to see a cracked flower vase, or maybe a chipped tea set with a single broken saucer. Instead, what she saw looked more like gravel than pottery, with thousands of shards piled on top of one another, not even resembling the cups and saucers they had once been. Derpy began to paw at the pieces in desperation, hoping that, somehow, underneath the pile of shattered pieces, there might be one or two plates still intact. But her digging revealed only more broken parts, and, eventually, the bottom of the box. Now in shock, she sat down on her haunches, staring at the shattered pieces in front of her. They were so small, so pointless, and yet they said so much to her. That she was a klutz, that she couldn't do her job, that no pony would ever look forward to seeing her, that the smiling faces and happy greetings offered to other male ponies would never be hers. That she was doomed to spend the rest of her life alone in some sorting cubicle somewhere, mindlessly pushing an endless series of envelopes into little boxes. It was all just so monstrously unfair. Derpy had always made a point of trying not to cry. She had been mocked for her crying when she was a filly, even though she always felt she had so much to cry about. Her favourite doll, crushed by a misplaced hoof she couldn't see. The surprise door that left her nose bleeding. The constant, aching pain coming from a cast-enclosed wing. The pain and agony of the teasing. But there were some times where years of effort were helpless in holding back the tears. And here, in the quiet silence of the woods, she let it out, sobbing quietly over her pile of shattered dreams. Derpy banged on the door of the remote cottage with her hoof, not even bothering to look at what she was hitting. She had eyes only for the sad, dishevelled package in front of her, the box half-heartedly resealed. Without tape or twine, she could not close it properly, and anyway, the customer was sure to notice that she had peeked inside. All that was left now was to hand it off and go home and get fired. She just wanted to get it over with.
"Who's there?"
came a voice from inside. Derpy heard the door open and found herself looking at two soft pink hooves. She pushed the package towards them and tried to back up, figuring her only option now was to run. Maybe, if she ran fast enough, she wouldn't get chased, and then she would only get chewed at by her boss, not the customer.
"My goodness, dear, you're bleeding!"
Though Derpy continued to back up, one of the pink hooves moved up beneath her chin, bringing her face to face with the mare she was to deliver the package to. Derpy knew from the address that her name was Pretty Pieces, but other than that, she knew nothing about this mysterious mare. Though her vision was blurred by tears, Derpy could see the concern on Pretty Pieces' face.
I'm really, really sorry,
said Derpy, struggling not to start crying again.
but I dropped your package on the way here. I swept down in the trees to try to catch it, but...
That's not important right now. We need to get a bandage on that right away. Come in, please.
Derpy found herself being dragged into a surprisingly large, open house with dozens of windows in the walls of ceiling, making it better lit and more airy than the forest outside. The presence of dozens of easels and portraits made it clear that Pretty Pieces was an artist, and this remote location her private studio, a place where she could work without being interrupted by visitors. This made Derpy all the more uncomfortable, since she had now gone from destroying this mare's property to imposing on her private space.
Do you like my pieces?
Said Pretty, returning from the bathroom with a first aid kit. She began to gently dab disinfectant on Derpy's face, making the Pegasus wince.
They're very nice,
said Derpy. She was trying to be genuine, not just polite. The portraits were, although a bit blurry in her vision, filled with colour and warmth. She even recognised some of the more famous ponies depicted, such as Spitfire and Princess Celestia.
If you like those, you should take a look at the mural I'm constructing in sections,
said Pretty Pieces.
It's to be installed in Celestia's school for gifted unicorns, so I'm really taking my time on it.
Derpy nodded, letting her head sink down. So Pretty Pieces knew Celestia, or at least someone high enough in Celestia's inner circle to secure an art commission. And she would, no doubt, report that some dumb mail mare had smashed her precious, expensive plates that she absolutely needed to hold the tea and crumpets while she worked. Things were just getting worse and worse.
Have you been crying?
Asked Pretty Pieces.
I didn't think you were hurt that bad. Maybe I should take you to town to see the doctor?
It's not the cuts and bruises,
said Derpy. She knew she'd begun crying again, but she no longer had the strength to hold it back.
Just look at your package. It's all smashed to pieces. I tried so hard, and look at what I did. I am the worst male mare ever.
Pretty Pieces walked over to the box, examining it.
What do you mean, smashed to pieces? It looks to all be in one piece to me.
Look inside,
said Derpy, burying her face in her hooves. Pretty Pieces reopened the lid, looking inside, confused.
All I see is my latest shipment of art supplies, and they look fine. In fact, they look to be in better shape than the last 3 shipments I've received.
Derpy looked up, also confused.
What do you mean? Art supplies?
She said, sniffing slightly and trying to wipe away the tears.
I make mosaics,
said Pretty Pieces, setting the box down on one of the many work tables strewn throughout the house.
I have a friend that works at a restaurant back in Canterlot. As you might imagine, they're constantly breaking cups and plates. He sends me the broken pieces every few days to use in my art. It's a lot cheaper for me than buying cups and plates just so I could smash them. And a lot less wasteful, too.
Derpy slowly stepped over, blinking and looking first at Pretty Pieces, then at the package contents, then back at Pretty.
You mean it's supposed to be like this?
Actually, I've never seen it come in this good,
said Pretty Pieces.
Normally, even with the fragile sticker on the outside, it gets pretty roughly manhandled, and the fragments rub up against one another. I haven't found a use for the multicolored sand that results, but that won't be a problem with this batch.
She began to take out the pieces and sort them by color, carefully arranging them into small piles on the table.
So, you use this in your art?
said Derpy, her sadness giving way to confusion, and then a vague understanding. She looked to a nearby portrait of Celestia, and, as her eyes began to focus, she saw that it was not a single image, but instead thousands of tiny ceramic pieces carefully placed into a plaster base. Only when she looked at it from afar, or with her unfocused gaze, did it reveal itself as it truly was, a life-sized portrait of the royal personage, smiling gently beneath a sunny sky. Derpy blinked, and then focused again, and she realized that the image consisted of thousands of smashed and reassembled tea sets, all carefully arranged. Some of the designs were still visible when she looked closely.
Ever since I was a little filly,
said Pretty Pieces, continuing to sort as she talked.
I dropped some dishes when I was washing them one night, and I assembled the broken pieces into a visual apology from my mother. And then bam! Cutie mark! 10 years of formal training and 10 more professional efforts, and now I'm making mosaics for the Canterlot elite.
So I didn't break anything?
said Derpy, hope welling up in her heart.
Other than your face? No,
said Pretty Pieces.
Like I said, this is the best shipment I've had yet. I wish all the male mares were as dedicated as you. I'd get a lot more work done.
Pretty's sorting was interrupted by Derpy, who hugged the artist tightly.
You have no idea how much this means to me,
said Derpy, closing her eyes and flapping her wings in delight. Pretty smiled a bit, surprised by the sudden intimacy.
You're welcome,
she said, extracting herself from under Derpy and putting on the best smile she could manage.
Do you always get so touchy-feely with the other ponies on your route?
Oh, sorry,
said Derpy.
It's just, I thought I was going to lose my job when I looked into that box.
Well, I guess my friends back in Canterlot could have labeled it better,
said Pretty Pieces. She had shifted from sorting the pieces to assembling them, carefully laying them out on a blank slab, figuring out where each one fit in relation to the others.
But who would fire you over a little bit of broken crockery?
It's not just that,
said Derpy, looking at the floor. She couldn't decide if she was more shy or more bashful, but it felt good to talk to Pretty Pieces, and she couldn't just leave until she'd said her piece.
I have strabismus, so I can't see distances very well, and that means I end up crashing. A lot. And my boss wants to fire me because I keep losing or breaking packages.
Can't see distances, huh?
said Pretty Pieces, letting out a short laugh.
Neither can I.
She turned around, tapping her left eye with her hoof. It made a clinking sound, like a teacup.
This eye? Glass. Lost the real one when I was a little filly, but I never let it keep me down. If anything, it's kind of an inspiration to me now. If I can turn a pile of broken dishes into something as beautiful as a royal portrait, then even a broken mare like me can be beautiful too.
Broken is beautiful, huh?
Said Derpy, pawing at the floor with her hoof.
Darn tootin',
Said Pretty Pieces.
Now, if you don't have to report back to your boss right away, I could use an extra hoof with the plaster. Especially if that hoof is strong enough to carry a box of broken ceramics all the way from Candlelot.
I'd be happy to help,
Said Derpy, following Pretty Pieces and smiling.
I know the heavy lifter likes to run things like he's in the equestrian royal guard, but here in the sorting room we like to keep things a bit more relaxed,
Said Sorted Out, Derpy's new boss. A mixture of hippie and highly trained professional, he had long but well-kempt hair, and though his uniform was crisp and new, it was adorned with decidedly unprofessional buttons and patches in addition to his name tag and rank. He had the air of some pony who took his job, but not himself, very seriously. He was also decidedly friendly, something Derpy was not used to when it came to management.
Yes, sir,
Said Derpy, sitting back in the beanbag chair she'd been issued. It was, surprisingly, comfortable, and much softer on her rear than the rock-hard benches she was used to up front.
You could call your dad sir, but you could call me Sorted Out. Or Sorty.
Said Sorted Out, smiling.
And I hope you call me Sorty, because that's what my friends call me. And you seem like a pretty radical mare, so I'd like to be your friend as well as your boss.
Sure thing, sorry?
Said Derpy, still not used to the familiarity, but loving it in concept.
So, what do you want me to do first?
Mellow out for one.
Said Sorted Out.
Do you want the day off or something? I got a coupon for a free massage down at the spa. Maybe you need it more than I do.
I'll be fine,
Said Derpy.
I'm just a little nervous.
She was understating things, of course. The last few days had been nothing but nerves, beginning with heavy lifting, firing, and then reassigning her to work in the mailroom, followed by Heavy's boss, Quickest Route, telling her that she was still going to be delivering mail, just only by foot, and only in Ponyville. It was an emotional roller coaster, and the fact that she had such an excellent new boss only added to it all. It seemed like things couldn't get any better, and they'd just so recently been so astoundingly worse.
Well, let me start you out with something easy to sort.
Said Sorted Out, handing her a large, flat package.
It's addressed to you. Go on, open it. I bet it's something really cool.
Derpy needed little encouraging, and after she removed the external paper and cardboard and dug into the soft tissue paper, she found herself staring at a tiny portrait of herself made of multicolored sand gently pressed into a blue-tinted plaster. She was depicted as smiling happily, her misaligned eyes filled with joy. There was a note as well, which she pulled out and set on her desk.
I found a use for the sand,
Said the note.
Remember, nothing is too broken to be beautiful. Signed, Pretty Pieces.
Far out.
Said Sorted Out, admiring the piece over Derpy's shoulder.
I wish more of my employees had cool stuff like that on their desks. All they have are flowers and family photos. It's so square.
You really don't mind?
Said Derpy.
Nah, it's really cool.
Said Sorted Out.
Ponies just need to chill out and relax and focus on the sorting, you know? Labels are for packages, not for ponies.
Derpy nodded and smiled, turning to the bag of envelopes in front of her and beginning to sort them by city, the prelude to the later regional sorting she'd do before heading out on her ground route. As she worked, she smiled at the picture, now hung on the side of her cubicle, Pretty Pieces' words echoing in her mind.
Nothing's too broken to be beautiful, huh? Well, I guess that makes me beautiful too.
That was Cracked Beauty. It was written by Slate Sadpony and read by Scribbler with special guest voice actors Kel Grimm and the Lost Narrator. Okay, thank you very much for listening. I am going to have to keep my voice incredibly quiet because at present time of recording it is 2:39 a.m. and I wanted to do this much earlier, but I kind of got distracted by other things, you know, as I am wont to do. But I have... You may have just heard me putting down my little pile of post-it notes. Post-it notes. Of things that I am reminding myself to say so I don't have to record this end blurb bit more than once. So first things first. Thank you very much to Kelgrim and the Lost Narrator for appearing on this story. I wanted to do this since it first appeared on EQD. Usually when I'm reading stories, I'm going back to the stories that I recorded in the summer, wherein I called it the Summer Readathon, and I have currently 100 plus fanfictions in various stages of editing from the summer. So I very rarely record new stuff unless I really, really want to, and I really, really wanted to with this, and they were kind enough to indulge me. However, during the editing process on this, Kel actually had some really, really bad luck, in that the house where he and his family lived was broken into, and they had some really quite personal things taken, including some irreplaceable photographs. So if anyone would like to go, just leave him some words of support, because I think he could use them at this time. And as ever, the Lost Narrator just continues to be awesome and slightly southern in this one. Right, other things. I would like to direct your attention to a fanfic reading which has been put together almost entirely by Deftfunk, who appears on The Heroic Tale of Heroically Heroic Heroes as Mr. Snuggles, the Evil Cat. And he has put together a reading of Going Up by Chris, Derpy and Carrot Top fanfic, which sort of deconstructs a lot of Derpy and Carrot Top fanfictions, as well as MLP fanfictions in general. And he kindly asked me to guest on it. So I will put the link below. Please go and check it out and subscribe to his channel, because in addition to just having an awesome source voice, he is a really, really, really nice person. And scarily intelligent at times. Other news? Core of the Apple 4, the 4th installment in a comic dub series that I started doing earlier this year, the very first comic dub series I've done. The Core of the Apple 4 is now out. I uploaded it this week. I would really appreciate it if people would go and have a look at that. And Ilya Leonov, who is a fanfic reader whom I really, really admire, not least of which because he does very long fanfictions and he does entire readings of them that he then puts up for free download. And he's just... Once you have listened to his voice, you cannot imagine anyone ever reading those fanfictions as well as that again. And he very kindly asked this week if he could start broadcasting Ponytails, the fanfic region, my fanfiction readings, on his radio show. So I was very, very touched and very flabbergasted at that. And lastly on my list, I mentioned a while back, I think it was last fanfic reading or a couple of fanfic readings ago, that my birthday is coming up. And in response to some comments people have left, yeah it is, that wasn't lying. Not fishing for presents or anything like that, that's not my response to this, but it's upcoming and I'm a little bit sad about it because my sisters aren't going to be able to come home to spend it with me, which I kind of hoped they were going to, since they're not going to be able to come home for Christmas this year. I'm not going to see them till New Year. And given that there's only 3 of us and we have new cousins and an ever-shrinking family, I was a bit saddened by that. But yeah, Sunday the 15th, I have one of those, what are called milestone birthdays, and it's one that everybody else seems to be far more concerned with than I am. I don't know. But, yeah, it will pop up on profiles here and there for people who know me that, yes, my birthday's coming up, and if you would like to just stop by and say, "Hi, Scribbler, happy birthday next Sunday," then I will be more than happy to have your happy birthday greetings, which would be really nice, because I'm more used to people actually forgetting my birthday because it happens so close to Christmas. So, I have nothing particularly witty to end on. It is now 2:44 a.m, and I think I'm just going to shut up before I say something I regret. Be lovely to each other, and good night, everybody.